Hi everyone, welcome back to the Health Tip. So we're continuing in our series about cholesterol, and in this week I'm going to be talking about the importance of something called sulfur, which has a very important effect on energy in our body and having our body have energy flow, but also as far as it relates to heart disease and heart attacks and cholesterol. So I kind of gave a little teaser last time that sometimes heart disease might actually be related to a cholesterol deficiency, not too much cholesterol. I'm going to see if I can kind of explain that a little bit. It's a very, very complicated issue with a lot of parts, so I'm just going to really simplify it to kind of give you an idea of what happens. And I'm going to bring in something that's unfortunately sprayed on most of our crops now that has a really bad influence on having this happen. So as I said before, we have our cholesterol in our blood, but cholesterol can't float freely in the blood because it's kind of a waxy substance, like an oil and water. They don't mix, so it needs to be carried. So it'll either be carried on a particle, so we would call those in DL particles, low density lipoprotein. So lipo means fat, protein means protein, so it's actually a protein particle carrying the cholesterol around. But the other way your body can make cholesterol float around is by adding sulfur to it. So it's called the cholesterol sulfate. And that actually makes it soluble in water so it could float around too. So this is really, really important for feeding a lot of cholesterol and sulfate in towards the heart, because the heart uses a lot of sulfur to actually run its electrical systems as well. And when sulfur is missing from your cells, it's very problematic because they kind of run out of energy and they can't unload their toxins and things like that. They kind of build up their waste products. And one of the things, there's something called the macrophage, which is a white blood cell that kind of eats up bad stuff. And there's a lot of those around your heart. And what happens is when people have, when they're taking in grains that have been sprayed with glyphosate, Glyphosate is going to be one of the biggest problems. It's going to be causing so much health challenges. It's already starting, but it's going to be really, really bad as we find out how much devastation this is causing. But glyphosate is a herbicide that they spray on crops. So they genetically modify the crop so glyphosate doesn't destroy the plant that we want to grow, but it kills every other plant around it. So glyphosate, we call it, it's like a binder. It chelates certain minerals so that the plants can't live. And it also chelates things in our blood too, and it also takes out sulfur out of action from our body. So when people are having cholesterol clumping in around the heart, what the body's trying to actually get more cholesterol, it's needing that sulfate for it to run its electrical activities. So it's actually drawing more cholesterol to it, but often it's just cholesterol with a lot of the particles, and not so much cholesterol. It's seeking sulfate, but the sulfate is being pulled out by the glyphosate, and so it's pulling more particles that have cholesterol in it. But unfortunately, these particles will usually be the low density kind, and they're going to be oxidized too. So what does that mean? It's a particle that's kind of burnt. If you want to think of oxidation like it's rusting. And one of the biggest things that causes oxidation of our particles is actually glucose. So when you have a lot of too much sugar floating around in your blood, it actually kind of burns or rusts these little the LDL particles, and those actually start to break their way into the walls of the lining of the arteries here, of the little capillaries, and as they kind of poke through the capillaries, that starts to cause an inflammatory reaction, and then those macrophages, those big cells, come and eat those, and then it actually starts to create collagen production, and so that the cells, actually the lining starts to get thicker and thicker, and it starts to get all clumped up, and so we have this combination of a whole pile of things. So glucose is also sulfated in our blood as well. That's another way, because normally it's either it's taken out of circulation by insulin usually, so insulin will attach to the cell to make the sugar go in, the glucose will go in. But if there's a lot of it floating around, it'll be sulfated, and that's one way that it keeps it from oxidizing things or getting something that we call, I've mentioned it in the past, AGEs, advanced glycosylated end products. So meaning that sugar is just kind of attaching to everything and making it all sticky, which isn't good. And it can actually stick to like fats and stuff like that too. And so that causes a lot of problems. So hormones in our body are also sulfated as well. So sulfur is really, really important. And so because we have this glyphosate on basically all conventional grains, especially corn, soy, sunflower oil, cotton, and a bunch of other grains, canola oil, and all that kind of stuff. So that glyphosate is very, very prominent in our food chain now. And if you're not getting 100% organic stuff, that's probably being sprayed on it. And it's even being sprayed on non-conventional, even the non-GMO ones, like even regular crops are getting sprayed with this so that it'll dry up the crop so it makes it easier to harvest. So even the regular crops are getting sprayed with this too. So it's really hard to avoid unless you're getting 100% certified organic products. So that's a really big factor. So this was another thing that I wanted to mention, talking about having this in our system. So just so you know, some of the food things that might be providing sulfur would be like garlic and onions and Brussels sprouts and those kind of things, and egg yolks as well. Very important, so don't forget to get as much of that as you can, obviously from organic whole sources as much as you can. And so this was just one other thing I wanted to mention about the whole sulfur thing. So other important factors about this is when sunlight hits your skin, it kind of sulfates cholesterol to make vitamin D, and so it's really, really important in a lot of different factors. But I just kind of wanted to talk about the whole cholesterol thing. And actually, the lack of proper cholesterol getting into the heart in this case is actually causing the heart to draw more cholesterol to it. It's actually it's starving for this energy from the sulfate, and so it's pulling more cholesterol in there. And that actual lack of cholesterol that it's not getting properly is the cholesterol deficiency that's causing the heart problems, which is kind of interesting. So in the next video, next time, I'm going to be talking about the cholesterol numbers. Why just measuring your total cholesterol is basically useless, because there's people with normal cholesterol levels, total cholesterol levels. Half the people that have heart attacks have normal cholesterol levels, what they call normal. And different countries in the world have different normals for how much cholesterol should be in there. But I'm going to be talking about what you should actually be measuring if you're worried about your heart attack risk, and it's not your total cholesterol, because that's almost a useless reading, actually. It doesn't tell us very much at all. So I'll tell you about what the other things you should be getting measured by your doctor and all that other kind of stuff. So I'll talk about that in the next video. So hopefully this was helpful a little bit, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.